What is your favorite fictional clown? And there's one rule though. One rule. The character actually has to be occupied as a clown. Like that has to be their profession. They have to have like some sort. They had to have at least had 4 years of clown college.
Pennywise for sure.
I don't know about that. Don't know about that.
I mean, clown college. He's kind of taught himself. I mean, he's poor at it. I didn't say he was good.
I just wanted to give a question that would make you tempted to say probably what is your favorite character of all time, but you wouldn't be allowed to do it.
Unfortunately, I know we could go with Joker, but the thing is, Joker to me is not a clown, and he would take offense of being called one. So I never include Joker as a clown.
I guess I didn't even have to add that little twist to it then.
Yeah, exactly. But, I'm sure even if you asked Joker, he would also say the same thing. It's just very much a Pennywise thing. Murderous clown, but he's not a clown.
I'll say my favorite one is the one from Billy Madison that falls on his head and then randomly joins the musical number at the end.
Oh my God.
Welcome.
I forgot about that.
Welcome to DeRailed Podcast. I'm Michael, as always, and today I have a very special guest. How about you introduce yourself?
Hello, guys. I am Tim Schafer, a.k.a. the 8-Bit Misfit, or a.k.a. the Joker, or however you guys know me. Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, yeah, no problem. This is another person I was talking last episode from Map Presents. So I talked about this on the Duckcast podcast, too. We all kind of met through making videos about stuff that scared the shit out of us as a kid.
Yeah.
I found so many more examples since then. Like, I don't really want to do a follow-up video, but I so could. I so could do a follow-up video.
I was thinking the other day, I was like, wow, I could, with the amount of content, like the amount of stuff that I thought of, I could make like 3 more videos to that, but I don't really want to do a follow-up. I might do one in Halloween that may not be exactly a childhood trauma video, but will be some form of theme on fear or horror of some sort by Halloween, but...
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I love doing horror stuff. I love watching that stuff. I just didn't want to... I felt like if I did more than one, I'd like start becoming associated like as a horror channel, which I love those, but I don't really want to be one.
Well, that's how the horror fandom works. Like once they see you do 1, 2, or 3 things, they immediately associate you as the horror guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that horror fandom is like a very big, passionate group, and I love it. Like,
oh yeah,
I would love to do a horror themed channel, but the amount of extra work I'd have to put into on top of what I already do, like, would be a disaster because I'd have to have tons of fake blood and who knows what else.
Yeah,
prosthetics and stuff on my show.
I like the YouTuber Blame It on George a lot because he kind of like, I don't know, do you know who that is?
Sounds familiar.
He does like a bunch of like horror videos, but he's like found such interesting ways to like mix it up. Like he does a lot of videos on public access television and just because like that's always going to be a new topic. That's always going to be something that no one's covered before, unless if it's like one of the really well-known ones. I think there's a few out there that are a little popular, but he also does like all these documentaries on like lost footage, like what's it called again? What do they always call it? Found footage? No, not found.
Like
footage.
The found footage.
Lost media. Lost media.
Yeah. Lost media.
Yeah, and I think he finds a good way to switch it up because it kind of like it's horror but also mystery, and I like that a lot. What I was so fucking afraid of as a kid, like I think the thing that was like not even mentioned in my childhood trauma video, but it scared me more than anything, is just I had a huge fucking fear of bees and wasps.
Oh, okay.
And there was I got stung as a kid, and to me it was like the only potential threat that was actually around me, because I'm unlikely not going to get attacked by a bear or anything, but bees are very common. and there's so many video games that use bees or wasps as an enemy.
Yeah. No, that and birds. Like,
yeah.
It's like, so as far as like, because yours isn't really an irrational fear.
Yeah.
What's an irrational fear to you that you're like, this would totally not get me, but like, I still am afraid of it? Because mine is sharks. I hate great white sharks because Jaws ruined me as a child.
Yeah, I think if I watched Jaws as a child, it would have fucked me up too, because I saw it as an adult and it kind of fucked me up. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a horrifying thing to think about. Super unlikely. I think there's a better chance that you'll get hit by lightning than a shark attack.
Right.
But But when it comes to like an irrational fear, I don't know. Like I have so many irrational fears. So many. Right. I guess like if we're talking about like an animal or something, like I don't know. I can't think of one really. Anything
like armadillo. Can you imagine somebody's afraid of an armadillo, the most harmless creature that just tucks itself in, does nothing?
That'd be funny. I don't like how they do that. I'm afraid of.
I don't like the way their body moves. It's no.
But I can't really think of one off the top of my head that like scared me as a kid. I held a lion cub as a child. And I think I was afraid of like the I don't know if this was like a humane thing to do or not. Like as a kid, it was okay. It was like it was a zoo. I mean, a lot of zoos, they're just taking care of animals that were in bad places. But yeah, I think me and my brother got to hold lion cubs once, and I think I recall hearing something about that the mother lion wasn't very happy about kids doing that, but
oh no. Well,
yeah,
zoos are pretty
I think I was afraid
anyways.
of
if it's not the zookeepers, the animals can be.
Yeah. Because it was just like a thing at the zoo, like they were just letting people do that,
right?
Unless if that memory is completely fabricated and it was a dream and I'm remembering things wrong, but I think that really happened. Do you ever have that? You ever have that where you're like, did that actually happen?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've had. There's at least 3 dreams in my life that I still remember to this day that I'm like, I still don't know if that happened or not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, have I embarrassed myself publicly that I'm not aware of?
Oh, I have one that's really weird where it was like we went camping one year. We went on a camping trip, and I remember one night. And this one's really weird, but my dreams are kind of fucking weird. Where I just like went to the bathroom and then I tried to, instead of going back to my tent, I tried to get into our car.
Oh my!
And I couldn't. Okay. The door was locked, so I started freaking out. And then someone came out and said, "What are you doing? Don't you have a tent?" And I'm like, and then I wake up and I'm like, I think that was a dream, but did that really happen? Because the dream was the exact same location. It was the exact same. I don't know. I was a weird fucking kid. I could have really been freaking out about that. I could have been like tired and confused.
Right. Well, yeah, and exhaustion will do it. Like it'll make those situations even worse.
I don't know. Like that dream, it was like one of the most real feeling things I ever had. So I don't know if that actually happened or not. Anyway, we should get to the topic of movies, because most episodes have like some sort of topic. For me and you, I kept like bringing stuff up to you, and you're like, yeah, we'll do whatever, and I was just like, eventually I just made it to a point where like, okay, we'll just literally talk about whatever we feel like for this episode.
And I'm a big movie fiend. Most people don't, at least now, they don't know me as that. I will talk about movies every once in a while on my channel, but I used to have a podcast way back when where I was obsessed. Like I'd talk about everything from the pre-production of filmmaking all the way to like I just would pick a film or a theme and discuss those films or that particular film or director or something. So I'm glad that we actually get to talk about this, because I haven't even really gotten to a big like cinematic discussion since like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago with anyone. So. Nice.
Well, no, honestly, when me and Zach did the Duckcast that was like one of my favorite episodes we ever did on that one, just because it was like, it was just nonstop film discussion. I love doing that. Me and Zach added we're on season 4 now. We're actually just wrapping up. We have 4 more episodes left.
Nice.
And we added a movie discussion to every episode now, where every episode ends with me and him recommending a movie to each other. We don't do it for guest episodes. We skip it for guest episodes because we don't want our guest to have to like buy and watch 2 movies. But
I'd do it. I wouldn't care.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It, let's do
it. Next time we have you on, I'll let you know what we're watching.
Hell yeah.
And we just end each episode. We'll do half the episode like how we've been doing the show for the couple years we've been doing it, and then we'll end it on a movie talk. I love doing it. It's so much fun. And DeRailed, I really wanted to like make it a consistent thing, and it still won't be like ever be like a weekly thing, but I'd like it to be a monthly thing.
Right.
I have like a couple guests lined up, people I want to have on, and I definitely want to get you and Matt back on as we keep doing this. But
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
yeah,
I guess
Matt's a swell guy too, because like he he likes a lot of the schlocky shit that I am a sucker for too, which is great. So like him and I relate on a lot of levels on that. Like his entire show is based on schlock, and like I literally make my dad. I hold my dad accountable because I got my dad into Red Letter Media content.
Nice.
And I got him heavily into watching Best of the Worst, and so what we would do every time a Best of the Worst episode we knew it was going to come up, we would watch the episode and then force ourselves to watch all 3 or 4 of those films before the next one came out. And we've done that consistently for a while now, and it's been pretty great. It's been pretty amazing. Find some gems in there. Mainly Rotor. Go watch Rotor.
I'll take honestly. I'll take note of it. I took a bunch of notes of like movies that Matt talked about when he was on. What's Rotor?
Rotor, yeah. It's all with like periods after the end of every letter, and it is kind of like the cheap man's version of like a murderous RoboCop, but it goes on so many side tangents. It's insane. I don't even know. It's not really a movie. It's like it's a movie that's been constructed to make you think it's a movie, but it's really scenes happening with other weirder scenes in between of the longest takes you've ever seen in your life. And they should be boring, but they're so incompetently done that they're hilarious. So well done.
I have my own like little hidden gems, but I've talked about that on the Matt episode. But yeah, it's good stuff. I like watching amateur films on YouTube too, and I always try to be as like respectful as I can when doing that. Like I won't mention any of them by name because it's done by smaller people that will of course improve their skills as time goes by. But but it's just so fun to watch those to me, like just amateur films, like real amateur film. And I'm kind of laughing at them, but kind of appreciating them too because I was absolutely making stuff just like that. Mm-hmm. Always fun. So I'll get to like the first big topic of this episode. Okay. You had an idea of what it was. You said that you think you know what it is. You said your spidey senses were tingling.
So my assumption is that you wanted to talk on the topic of the new Joker trailer, but that was just my assumption.
You are actually incorrect, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Now we can still talk about that, and I think you'll like the topic I have still, but I actually did not watch the Joker trailer.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're the only person I've heard that said they didn't see it, so that's awesome.
I just don't watch any of the DC trailers because I hear Shazam is good. I hear Shazam
is actually a blast. It's a breath of fresh air. Superman breath of fresh air. I'm not even kidding. Go see it, guys. It's really fun.
I actually do want to check it out now. It is I swear it's like the only fucking 7 out of 10 Adam of YMS has ever given a superhero movie before.
Yeah. Well, after we end the show, I'll play the theme song and just tell me that music doesn't echo like John Williams or James Horner, like classic Hollywood. It's so good.
I do want to see it. I do actually want to see it. I really wanted to see Alita. I told you this in the message already. I missed it in theaters. Like I got so fucking busy. The topic I wanted to talk about is I wanted to, whenever I have a guest on for the first time on the show, I like to connect things to their channel a little bit. Uh-huh. And I was thinking, how do I do that for you? Now, Joker obviously could have been a good chance to do that.
Yes, indeedy.
Nice. But the route I ended up going, because this is one that you specifically mentioned to me before that you want to know my thoughts on, was your Blade Runner video.
Yeah.
And I finally sat down and watched Blade Runner.
Oh my god, awesome. All right.
And you said it's your favorite movie of all time. Would you say that's still true?
Oh yes. That is that's the movie that made me want to get into filmmaking. That was the movie that made me want to write, direct, everything.
I completely get that too. I completely understand that. And like and I have a couple things to say about your video, because I watched your video as well. I watched an hour of Blade Runner 2049 and unfortunately had to stop just because I got a message from someone like, oh, I got to work on this now, okay.
Right.
But I do have it rented still. I'm going to finish it.
Well, that one's a much longer movie too, so that's understandable. It's a much more on an epic scale than the first film is.
Yeah. I actually don't even have it rented either. Like, there's no rental option for Blade Runner 2049. I had to sign up for a free trial of Climax on Amazon Prime. So I have to finish that by tomorrow or I'm paying for it.
Right. Yeah, normally what I do is, if you're lucky too, there's a spring sale going on Xbox Live right now. If you ever rent digital on Xbox, they have a bunch of sci-fi movies on sale right now. You might even get it for like $2 to rent.
I would definitely do that. I really liked what I saw of Blade Runner 2049 so far. Like, I mean, it's just a fucking amazing sets. I love what they fucking do. Nothing looks fucking fake.
Yeah, and that's because they go with a traditional approach, what the original film does, which is as much as it can be done in practical, shoot it in practical.
Yeah, and even
I think Ridley Scott's great about that.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, even in the original one, it's like the only thing that looked even remotely fake to me in that is like some of the extreme long shots where you see the cars driving through, like the floating cars. That looks a little bit dated, but
the early day CGI stuff.
Yeah, but aside from, I really can't think of anything else in that movie that looked off to me.
Now, did you watch the theatrical cut, the director's cut, or the final cut?
The final cut.
Okay. I always recommend to people who've never seen it, watch the way it was intended by Ridley first, which is the final cut, and then go back and watch the theatrical, because the theatrical has what most people would consider the sin against humanity, the drunken Harrison Ford voiceover. It's done like an old time, gangster film type of thing with the, internal monologue thing. And the problem is,
they do internal monologue?
Yeah.
Ew.
And here's the thing, and just like narration in general. But here's the thing, sometimes it works. I like both versions for very different reasons. They totally change the film with or without. But the theatrical version has its problems because some lines don't hit well because the dubbing at the time when he was doing it, because it's very famously known in the production that Harrison did not want to go back and record these voiceovers. He thought it was great as is and thought it would be giving too much away to the audience, which it does.
I agree. I haven't
the
even
show
seen
don't
it,
tell approach, right? Like, yeah. You want to, and here's the thing, there's literally scenes, the bad parts of him, or where he's clunkily saying, like, he'll say, I found this in Rachel's apartment or whatever. Like, he'll specifically say something, and he's doing the thing he's saying. So you're seeing it happen, and it gets rid of all the air of mystery of the audience staying awake, figuring it out, piecing it together with him, which is why I like the other cuts slightly better, because you kind of feel like a detective as you're going with him to figure out what the hell is going on. You gather the clues and piece together what those clues mean. The theatrical cut gets rid of all of that because of the bad dubbing. The only time the voiceover works is when he's like describing the city or other things like that.
And I know you're saying some of that works. And it's like, I mean, it sounds like if you watch Blade Runner like 20 times and loved it, maybe, okay, let's see this alternative version, even if it's not going to be good. But that just sounds like the movie was perfect in the way it presented that. Like, I honestly thought that was great. I was like pretty surprised with it too, because I don't think Harrison Ford is a bad actor, but like in the older movies he was in, I mean, I don't know how controversial this is to say. I do not think I like Han Solo. I think it's very corny acting. But I mean, kind of the first Star Wars movie was corny.
Part of that's George too, because he wants them to act corny, because one, his scripts and his dialogue's kind of corny. Some of the best actors in the world had not been able to change that. The prequels prove that, because you got Sam Jackson over there sounding like a complete dipshit, saying his lines, and he's a great actor and he can't even pull it off.
Yeah, Sam Jackson signs on to a lot of interesting stuff, though.
Yeah, he does.
I really loved it. I have a couple scenes I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
Two of which were actually ones I wanted to bring up from your video specifically that you brought up. Because I actually thought they gave some good clarification. Because I was a little confused about a few things when watching it, but in a way where I was like, I understand enough of what's going on, and it's like, it's not bothering me because I'm going to rewatch this. I'm going to pick up on new things.
It's not taking you out of the plot, but there's other meanings to that scene than just on the surface level.
The two scenes I took the biggest issue with, and again, not in a way that I didn't like them. In fact, one of them I fucking loved, but I was just like questioning a few things with it. One of them was the scene where he kind of forces her to stay. And doesn't really force her, but he shuts the door on her, when she's trying to leave.
Oh
she kind of realizes what she's
during the kissing and all that.
Yeah. And I was like thinking, I was thinking to myself, is this really a happy scene? Like, I wasn't sure. Like, I wasn't sure what they were trying to go for. Is like Harrison's Ford character kind of supposed to be kind of shitty in the scene, or because she's just repeating everything that he says? But I like the way that you explained it. I think what you said is more accurate in your video.
Yeah, I mean, the way I read it is he's been shitty to her since the day he meets her in Tyrell's room. And so by the second time, that's like the second time they hang out, after the bar scene when he's getting clues at the bar. And by that point, he's really drunk, as he always typically is, and his life is in the shitter. Like, he's the best they have, but he's not really great at his own life. The only thing he's great at doing is killing. And it's getting to him. He can't leave. He can't go to the off-world colony because you have to be filthy rich to do so. The idea in the pictures, when you see him looking at his photographs of his family, is that either possibly the idea was that he was so involved in his work that his family up and left and went to the off-world colony. That's the theory, the fan theory, but you don't really know, and that's the great thing about it. And then, of course, we get to the ending, which kind of answers some questions about those photographs, which is great. But I think that scene's not supposed to be completely happy. It's sweet that they find each other, but they find each other in desperation, because you've got Rachel, who now understands everything about her life is fake. And you've got Deckard over there, who knows that he thinks everything about his life is, that's the way it is, but he doesn't like the way it's going, and he's alone. He needs comfort. He doesn't have that anymore, and he finds that in Rachel, but he also is kind of a wimp and doesn't know how to go about that without being aggressive, so he just kind of brings it out in his aggressive side to kind of take control over her, and it kind of represents him taking control over his life for once, because everyone else is in control of him. His precinct's in control of him. He's basically like a killing dog for them. He has no control over what he's doing, really, because they're just going to keep annoying him or hunting him down or whatever the case may be. So that's his first moment of control, and it's first moment for her to make a decision for herself to take control of her own life, even though she knows she hasn't been in control of it now. She's finally making possibly a decision on her own without Tyrell telling her, or without it being programmed or embedded into her brain. So that's what that scene means for me, is those two characters change drastically because of each other and because of their unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, no, I do think that was like a very good way of putting it, because like I kind of understood that a little bit, but there was just a part of me that was like, I'm trying to figure the best way to describe it. I was just like, I was wondering, basically the main thing I was thinking in my head, is this a happy scene? Is this a sad scene? I think it's kind of in the middle, like you said, but it is like both of them do have control here for the first time in their lives. And I do think those same themes are carrying into 2049 quite a bit so far where I'm at in the movie. Yeah.
And I think the main reason why you might think that the tone is kind of all over the place in that scene is because they had to reshoot that scene. It's famously known, if you look at that 5-hour documentary, which you're going to love, it's one of the best documentaries ever. They talk about how the studio wanted it to be more sexy, right? And so what they did was they shot an alternate version of that scene where they had just flat out had like a sex scene, like nipples out, like steamy up against the wall. It was less like aggressive and less about feeling of the characters themselves and what they've discovered about themselves, and more just they were there for a booty call in the way it was shot. And Ridley ultimately didn't really, like, he said, whatever, it was best they could, they shoot whatever version, but it wasn't the version that he wanted. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, that version of that scene is in the director's cut, or it's in a deleted scene. I think they put it in one of the movies. It's got to be in the director's cut. But, there is the steamier version, and tonally it doesn't work, because they suck all the life of the scenes of, the character's self-discovery out of that scene. It just works as like, a sexy, like old-timey, like gangster movie scene, which is what I like about the original, is it's got a little bit of that, but it also, on the surface it's that, but underneath it's actually all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And I like scenes that have more depth to them than that that really of all the characters, you don't need a sex scene if it's not going to do anything for the characters in the long run.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure. I'm glad that there was some, like, I'm glad that they got across what they wanted to get across. Like, did they go for more of the sex scene in the theatrical release, or is it the same scene in the theatrical release?
I think in the theatrical, it's the same scene. It's just cut slightly shorter and different. The piano scene where he's drinking and looking at the pictures is not it's not inserted in the same way in the theatrical. And the director's cut and the final cut is when you see the unicorns, when he's like drunk and hallucinating and you see the unicorns in the flashback.
Yeah.
That's all added later. And fun fact, all that footage for the unicorns is actually footage that Ridley Scott had left over from his 1985 classic Legend with Tim Curry. So he took footage from those unicorns from that fantasy movie and put it in there, and that unicorn became the theme of that picture, which is where you see that paper unicorn and what that means to Deckard, which they ended up using. So it's kind of funny that like a portion of that other movie ends up becoming a key plot point for that film.
Yeah, I like in 2049 again. I don't want to talk too much about that because I'm not even done with the damn film yet. But I like how they kind of reincorporated that, like a animal made from like little paper. Foil. They're already bringing that stuff back. I think where I left off in Blade Runner 2049 is him noticing that number in the grave, like in that thing that they just buried up, and he goes back. I know. I guess spoiler alert right here, but I'm gonna probably name this one after Blade Runner, so it should just be assumed that we're gonna spoil Blade Runner in this.
Right.
I know that Harrison Ford is in it. But I also kind of realized that it's thanks to marketing that I know that, because I guess they wanted that to be a surprise.
I don't know if they wanted it to necessarily be a surprise. I think there's a big part of it where they didn't think the audience would come back. The audience that loved that as a cult film would come back unless they did have Harrison Ford in it. And Ryan Gosling is a big name now, but I think it would even more hype, and rightfully so. It was successful because of that marketing. But I think it was important to get those fans back to say that Deckard is still here, but he's maybe not be the same person,
Without spoiling anything, I just want a very brief opinion because I didn't watch your review because I haven't seen it yet. But
right,
what did you think of 2049? So far, I'm really loving it.
I think it's one of the best sequels to a 80s sci-fi masterpiece or what have you, like a big franchise film. I think it's one of the best sequels to come out in a long, long time. But as somebody who is a huge hardcore fan of the property, I have massive problems with it.
Well, we can talk about that next time you're on, because I'd like to keep talking about these.
It's mainly more technical. It's not necessarily like story-wise, but it's more like a character or two, or like some of the technical choices they did I didn't care for. But
the only thing so far that I definitely prefer the original over, like from a technical standpoint so far, is I think that the city design is a lot better in the first one than the second one.
Yes.
I think it has a lot more personality in the second one. First one, I mean.
I bring that up briefly, and that's a big problem for me. It's a big thing I bring up in the 2049 review and my tidbit review that I did. So, I do bring that up very much so, because I think the city, as I've said in the other video you saw, the city is just important as the characters itself in that world, and the way Gotham City is important to Batman, where it's its own character. And so if you don't make the city work, the characters fall apart. And I strongly believe that with Blade Runner. Blade Runner was so well realized, and most of that city was built, that it's important to, and having Sid Mead like design that, which is insane, like one of the best designers in the world, working with Ridley Scott to realize a city of a future that could possibly happen. Like LA basically became that.
weren't you playing clips of like the like an interview of that guy in your video?
Yeah, there's interviews of him and Ridley and like their thought processes of what the city would look like in that year and where we're going now, and the pollution and everything. And it's pretty dead on. It's shockingly how dead on that is with LA. And I mean, there's other films that have predicted the future, right? Like RoboCop predicted the DVD. Back to the Future 2 and 1 predicted multiple things.
Yeah.
But that's not really more of it predicting. That's more life imitating art type of thing where they said, oh, we should make this by this year so we can match up with Back to the Future. That's more of that situation, but still.
Yeah. I had a few more scenes from the original I wanted to talk about. And if you have any that you want to talk about too, definitely bring them up. One I wanted to talk about was just, it's a very tragic movie. I thought the scene where she kind of comes to the realization that she's a replicant is one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen in my life. Just that, like, her with the photo of her mom and, like, realizing that, okay, though this wasn't my fucking life. That would fuck me up. That would fuck me up so bad, and it's done in such a good way, and, like, Harrison Ford is being such a dick about it, and then he's like, okay, bad joke, didn't really, that's not really true.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh my god, the damage is already fucking done. Jeez.
Well, what I love about the Blade Runner franchise, and what I like about cyberpunk in general, typically explores the idea of machines becoming more human, and in the process, even though they're machines and looked down upon or not treated in the same respect, ironically, they're the ones that tend to discover to be more human than the humans in the story. The humans lose their humanity and they become more robotic-like, and in turn, the robots become more human. And I've always loved that about cyberpunk. And you have to look at it this way. I mean, Blade Runner was the first to really explore that and get the art style and the architecture down too, because the only people that were exploring it was like China and Japan with anime, and it was very, very paper thin on the idea. And that's the first movie to really like fully flesh it out. And then you see every, anime, live action, whatever, TV show to movie, you see a lot of things emulate Blade Runner. It's like, oh, that's a Blade Runner shot. Everyone knows Blade Runner.
Even just some of the themes, like I wouldn't call this movie similar, like style-wise especially. It's not similar to this at all. But I mean, I actually got like a couple things in this movie reminded me of her.
Yeah.
Just with the technology aspect of it, having like all this emotion and
exactly.
And it was like I haven't seen too many of those films, but I'm really
talked about
liking
her
them.
being kind of like it's the theme of cyberpunk without the architecture of cyberpunk, which is interesting because it's like super clean, more bright future, but ironically, it's not the brightest story, which is why it works. That's why that film works.
It's like a filter almost, because it almost seems like everything is so perfect, and that it does not take long for things to go wrong. Like it's just all that has to happen is more time has to pass, and she eventually starts becoming so advanced and being able to interact with things to where she's like, I don't remember how many people she said she was in love with at once, but it was a lot. It was a big number.
It's insane.
Yeah, and it's just because like they're advancing so fucking quickly.
Not too far from reality. I've had a few past dates that have said similar things. So ironically, it's pretty accurate. Although I always made the joke, when that happened, when she admits that, so I made the joke in the theater, I think that week, I think the second time I went and saw it, I made the joke, I said, no, you don't say Scarlett Johansson a whore? No.
Oh, shit.
I made that joke, and of course my friend, my cousin is like a big Scarlett Jo fan. And he's like, how dare you? I'm just like, hey, man, like, she tends to play. I mean, she's gotten better about it. But in her earlier career, she played the more, what I want to call them, home-wrecking characters. As if anybody has not seen the Woody Allen movie, is it Match Point? Yeah, Match Point. That is the epitome of home-wrecker.
Look, as long as it's not under the skin, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Oh man.
That was one of the scariest fucking things I've ever seen in my life. That first scene where the guy, you actually see the guys sink and what actually happens to their fucking bodies. That was so fucking horrifying.
It's so Kubrick though, and that's why I love that visual. I made my boyfriend. I'm a horrible person. I made my boyfriend watch that movie, the Witch, or The Witch with the 2 V's. And Hereditary in the same weekend.
Oh, God. I haven't seen either of those yet.
Yeah, and his brain is like he was kind of scarred, but after it was all over, he was like, I really like this. What do you call it? Cerebral horror drama? Like, I was like, yeah, thriller. And he's like, I love this stuff. So now I'm getting into the weird stuff, like the Gaspar Noé stuff, like Enter the Void. And now we're going to watch that movie.
Oh, I love Enter the Void.
Yeah.
Did you say Enter the Void? Or
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's so fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think
all the way
French
through.
cinema, the new wave French cinema stuff is great. That's the most sci-fi-ish psychedelic he's ever gotten. He's always kept the more personal thing about human relationships as his theme. The movie Love is insane. If you ever get the chance to watch it, it's all over Netflix.
I want to. I know there's also
it's intense.
Recently he has Climax, and I really want to see that. I kept hearing people finally fucking talk about it like it's out, and then I look it up and it's not. I can't fucking rent it. I can't fucking see it in theaters. It's nowhere.
I wonder if it's just on digital on demand in France and the UK right now. He did that with his last film too.
Well, one of them was again. I'm a very frequent listener of Sardonicast, and one of them was if you've heard of like you know those guys like Ralph, Adam, Alex. Oh yeah, Ralph said he saw, and he's from America, so I'm thinking like, how the hell did he see it?
Right.
Who knows? But I don't know.
Yeah, I always joke around and say Ralph's Bay. I tease him on Twitter all the time, and I say I have a massive crush on you just to fucking piss him off.
He's a closeted homosexual.
Yeah, exactly.
Closeted furry.
Exactly. I told him, I made a joke one time. I said, I was like, everyone calls you a closeted homosexual and a furry, but you know what? I think you're just a massive fan of Sailor Moon. He got triggered in the comment section.
Yeah, I like all three of those guys quite a bit.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. All right. Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So I had two more scenes I wanted to talk about real quick. One of them's not even really a scene. One of them is just a thing in the movie of how fucking uncomfortable it's like, and I mean this in the best way possible, how fucking uncomfortable it is to watch those chase scenes and just because it's so fucking crowded. It's like I've never seen chases quite like that before, where it's just like you can see how stressful it is to keep track of this person while walking through this like crowd of people where there's no space in between anyway. He has to keep like rudely pushing people, potentially actually harming a lot of them while doing it.
That scene, I remember somebody
so
compared that scene to...
claustrophobic.
Oh yeah, I remember somebody compared that scene to Steven Spielberg's Raiders of the Lost Ark with the chase scene in that.
I hate to say it, but I've never seen it.
Oh wow!
I know it's a big one. It's a big one.
Man, that's a big one.
There's big ones I've never seen before. Honestly, there's some like really well-known movies, but I like watching weird shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean that's a great comparison though. There's a chase scene in there when they're in the Middle East, and it's very similar, but the difference is it's not very crowded, and it seems more set-esque. Everything's calculated and kind of choreographed.
That's like the one where it's like start the plane. That's like start the plane, right?
Yeah, that scene.
Yeah. I did see Indiana Jones. Okay, I saw it when I was a kid, but I just haven't seen it since. Like I've seen it, but it was like kind of like how I saw Star Wars as a kid and then didn't rewatch it until like the week The Force Awakens came out.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's two very different movies, but I think that's a really good example of how like Blade Runner's chase scene feels like a chase. It doesn't feel like it almost feels like something you shouldn't be watching, which is kind of cool. The way it's shot. It's shot very minimalistic. It's not like this. You look at that scene, there's no music playing during the entire chase. And what it focuses on is the sound of the city, the walk machine just saying, walk, don't walk. The alarms.
I love that.
The sirens, you hear the rain, you see the people walking, you can hear that. You hear people screaming, walking, talking. You hear the markets as he's whizzing by. Like everything is focused on that world and nothing else. And that's why the chase works.
And to me, it's just I'm so stressed for this guy.
Yeah.
I'm so stressed for everyone involved. It's just like, oh my God, just imagine like something so fucking important that you have to get to. And it's running through this crowd of people that's fucking impossible to get through. Like I feel super awkward if I'm at school and there's too many people in the hallway. I'll like right. I'll stop and wait for other people to walk. Like I won't.
Yeah. That's probably why I like that
uncomfortable.
City. That city is super claustrophobic because you've got replicants, humans, all meshed together. You got people probably that have like enhancements and stuff like that, so they're not completely, they're midway between human and machine. You've got all these the city's overpopulated at this point and getting even more overpopulated because there's so many poor people they can't go to the off-world colony. And there's been attacks on other ships and stuff like that at this time, which is by Roy Batty's character and things like that. So everybody's kind of in a constant state of fear, and everybody's like crowded and living in gutters and stuff like that. So that's why I prefer that film over the second one, because it nails that. And I think I haven't really seen a sci-fi film that nails that perfectly without seeming false.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's probably my favorite part about Blade Runner. I mean, the characters are great too, but the characters work because that world works. Without that, they fail completely. So I think it's interesting to me. And I think it's cool that you felt like the panic in that scene, because that scene, if any other director had filmed that, it would have been like a typical action scene, right? And we were supposed to cheer him on for taking her out and all this in this scene to shoot her as part of a job. And that's partly why the audience was so disappointed back then. They thought it was marketed as like this Harrison Ford action picture, because Star Wars and Indiana Jones was big. So they didn't know, that it was going to be this kind of more slow, down to earth character development story thing with a little bit of sci-fi and some action. But the action it's not like unrealistic action. It's not over the top. It's very very down to earth, strangely enough. If you compare that to something like Minority Report, where it's kind of over the top, it's very, very different. Like, he's getting his ass kicked. And he's killing things that you should be excited for him killing, but you're not, because you feel kind of dirty. Like, these people don't, as he goes further on, you realize, you're like, do these people really deserve to be shot like this? Like, you start to realize they're people and not machines, because they're not looked at in the Terminator 2 way of like machine. Like, you can't really tell the difference besides the reflection in their eyes, right? So I don't know, it's interesting. I never felt completely like, rah-rah, like cheering him on in those scenes, or felt completely comfortable with it, but I think that was intended.
That was an interesting thing, actually, in Blade Runner, with often, like, you could see it in their eyes if they were a replicant or not. They do a couple of interesting things. There's actually, like, a scene, I think, where, and I know that he isn't, like, a replicant, but there's a scene where, like, Harrison Ford's eyes kind of do that, and I think that there's, like, a meaning behind that.
So what I found out from the production was it was actually an accident, and what they did was they continued it. But yeah, that shot is because I guess what they did was they had Rachel in that shot too, and so it was also reflecting in his area as well. And so they kept it on purpose because Ridley decided what he wanted to do with it plot wise later on, which is where we get to the ending, which is, is he or isn't he?
Yeah, and you do kind of get that a little bit, because you're wondering, why did this guy spare him? But I kind of took it as, that was something I was thinking about, but what I take it as now for sure is just going off of what you said in your video, which was the last thing I wanted to talk about with Blade Runner with you, is you mentioned that the main reason, what's the guy's name again? The last replicant he has to take down?
Roy Batty.
Yeah, Roy. The main reason that Roy lets him live is just because he wants the option to do so. He wants it to be in his control. He gets to choose how this ends, and he chooses that this guy gets to live, because the obvious thing to do would be to kill him.
Which is why ultimately the whole theme of the film is control, which is kind of what I was getting at. I didn't really get to that point completely, but that is essentially what the theme of that film is. You've got two main characters that gain control from one another through tragedy, through their own lives in different ways. You've got Roy Batty trying to gain control by trying to meet his maker and extend his life. He can't do that. So what does he do? He kills him. And then through that turmoil and all of what has happened, he also ends up losing Triss, which he can't control, and he goes off the deep end. He's willing to kill Deckard at the end during the chase on the rooftop, but he ends up making the decision not to, because he never had that choice to survive. So, and also you kind of get the idea, considering where the end goes, that maybe Roy knows something about him that Deckard doesn't know about himself.
Yeah, I did kind of get that vibe. I did.
Yeah, and so that's why I think there's a lot more hints than just the unicorn and sparing him about Deckard possibly being a replicant. I think there's far more clues than just that. And they're not like hit you over the head, but I think that's good filmmaking when they don't hit you over the head with it.
Oh, for sure. And that's why I'm happy to hear that I got to watch the version that didn't have drunk Harrison Ford monologue.
Now, you might have fun like drinking one night and watching it with your buddies or something and just seeing
it has to. It has to be exclusively friends who've seen the movie, though. I don't want that to be anyone's first viewing experience.
Right, exactly. It would have to be somebody who's familiar with it. And I think, they all serve their purpose. They're vastly different films. And also, the theatrical cut that I told you about with the voiceover, it has a very different ending. The scene in the final cut where you saw the ending of him hearing the voiceover from his partner, saying that, no one lives forever, but then again, who does? And then him, after he gets Rachel, making sure she's not dead, and then running out with her out the elevator to run away and escape, knowing that they're inevitably going to be hunted down. It's there's a whole nother scene in theatrical cut after that that they had to add because the test footage that they did not go very well with the audience. So what they did was they made them come back for reshoots and shoot this really cheesy, schmaltzy scene where they essentially drive off in Deckard's car, presumably towards the off-world colony, out of pollution, but they're randomly driving out into, this road out into random like mountains and stuff where it's actually really pretty and not polluted. And it's actually, funny enough, it's leftover B-roll footage from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Oh my god, I can fucking see that now. I'm watching it right now. That looks like The Shining.
Isn't that insane? So they meshed the two images, they meshed that together. All they did was do like a lower shot angle of inside the vehicle of the two of them going away, and then they do a voiceover with Deckard, which is actually a really cool voiceover in its own merit, that end. But it didn't need that. And Ridley knew it. It doesn't need that. You need to have the mystery of what happened to them. And we know they're running away together. You don't need to add that. And you don't have to have this happy fairy tale ending that goes nowhere. And I'm glad they didn't, because I think the final cut fits better with 2049 anyway. So it's a very tonally different movie. I think Ridley Scott has the best director's cuts I've ever seen. Like his theatrical cuts of Legend, why I love the theatrical cut with the Tangerine Dream score. The director's cut is almost vastly different because it has a completely different score over it that's more like fairy tale-esque that they originally didn't want because they wanted a mainstream band or artist to come in and score stuff. They wanted Tangerine Dream at the time. And so this amazing score he had before, he had to ditch. But there's the UK version, which is the director's cut, and the theatrical American cut. And both have very different musical scores. They have extended scenes in the director's cut that is not in the theatrical, rearranged completely different, has a different ending entirely, has a different tone and beginning. So it's, and even a different reveal of its main villain with Tim Curry as Darkness. So it's they're very, very different movies. But in the case of that movie, I would always encourage people to watch the theatrical before the director's cut, because the director's cut's like an extra treat.
Mm-hmm. I definitely like to I think at my second watch of it, I'd like to watch the final cut again.
Yeah.
But I'd definitely like to go back and check all of those. All I'm getting from the theatrical cut is that The Shining and Blade Runner are in the same universe, and now we need the third and final movie.
Yeah.
That's going to have characters from The Shining and characters from Blade Runner.
It's like that scene in Ready Player One where they go into The Shining. Except, wouldn't that be? I would love to see a fan edit of the High Five, the team, the High Five from Ready Player One, Deckard, and also characters from The Shining just randomly walking into each other's world and going, "What the hell?" Just looking at each other and then running. I think it'd be great.
And then end it by killing them all off in the most disrespectful way possible, like drown one of them in a puddle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is how you drown them. You just have Scarlett Johansson walk down naked down the hall, and then she just pulls them into a dark room. And when they're sunk down to the dark room and their head's just exposed, you can put a shot in there from Elle from Stranger Things, because it's literally just shot for shot the same thing. It's just a dark room with a strange girl in it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great film, though. I
love it.
There's a lot of people, I can understand how it wouldn't be for them. But if there's anyone out there who wants to get into art filmmaking, like wants to get into art film and cinematic, artsy fartsy films, I think it's the least boring out of art films. I think there are horrible art films. I think there's things like 2001: Space Odyssey. While I love that film for many reasons, the first half of it to me has massive problems because it changes everything about the book anyway. So it's like it didn't need that first half. If that film was just the moment they go into the ship and they have to survive Hal, that film would have been so much better for me. But it ends up dragging on for like 45 minutes to nearly an hour with other stuff it doesn't need to, that just confuses the audience because it wants to be recognized as somewhat like the book, but it doesn't go anywhere with those themes to be anywhere like the book. So it just becomes artsy fartsy stuff. So I don't mind artsy fartsy as long as it's done well and it's not distracting and it brings out some emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful shots there's beautiful shots that are wasted and beautiful shots that bring out emotion. Like E.T. is a beautiful film, especially towards the end during the Elliot, E.T. breakup scene. Like that's a beautifully shot film. Now just imagine if that it was just, well, I don't know, all music and no dialogue. Of course, then again, if Steven Spielberg wasn't directing that film, it would just be another Mac and Me.
I gotta rewatch that actually. E.T. I've not seen that in such a fucking long time. I think I was in elementary school. Honestly, like it's been a long time.
Just don't watch the director's cut, that new one they did with the CGI added.
Did they replace all of the guns with walkie-talkies?
Yes, that's the one. Oh, my
Did
God,
they actually do that? I thought that was a South Park joke.
No, that's a real thing. I hate it. And like Family Guy's made fun of it, and I'm just like, and it triggers me to no end because it's like it's the moment Steven decided to get really daddish with his movies.
Yeah.
And he's done it ever since. And I'm like, Steven, like, except for Ready Player One, I'll give him some credit. And I know a lot of people hate that movie. I think that film was one of my favorites over the last few years for the summer. I actually liked it more than some of the superhero movies that year.
Before I have you on next time again, I actually want to watch that one too because I want to see if I'm going to be on your side or like on the more like unpopular side because that could be a very interesting discussion.
It's one of those movies where everybody
regardless, it could be an interesting discussion.
I think there's a huge percentage that wanted to see it because they love the book. I'm the percentage that says the book sucked ass. And then I saw the movie because I wanted to give it a chance. It's like, it's probably going to suck. And I saw the movie and I was like, holy crap. He made me care about a story from a book I hated. That I was one of the few that hated that movie because it was just nothing but fandom for the sake of fandom. The character is obnoxious and a horrible human being. Like when people compare him to Charlie Bucket, I'm like, no, Charlie was a good human being. Like, like this kid Wade Watts is a horrible human being in the book. But the movie fixes all that. It takes all the fat out. It's kind of like Peter Jackson's first cut of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, where it cuts all the fat out. There's no 8 chapters in Hobbiton or anything like that, or any of that boring crap. It cuts the stuff out that is pretentious, doesn't need to be there, and gets on with the plot. And it does a really good job of, it has fandom in it, but the shots of the nerdy stuff isn't just for the sake of the nerdy stuff. It's to accommodate the world and the world building there, and also to help propel the characters forward. So it's storytelling. It's not just, look, nerdy things you liked when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Now you must like this movie. It's not being manipulative, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely will check it out. There was like, I was a little interested in seeing it. I just, I really did not see that many movies in theaters last year. Yeah. I saw like maybe 20 in theaters.
I saw a lot of indie movies over the last couple of years. Like I saw a lot, when you compare, like, I saw Call Me By Your Name, I think, more than any of them. I went and saw that movie like 4 times in the theater.
Nice. I'm yet to. I want to. It's been on my watch list for the longest amount of time. And I'll definitely get to it. Like last year I saw Thoroughbreds and I loved that.
Yeah.
I saw I'm trying to think of my favorites from last year. Oh, Skyscraper, masterpiece.
Oh God.
What? Yeah, that was so stupid, but I saw it with friends, and I felt so bad because we couldn't really hold our laughter, and everyone else there like seemed to actually want to watch it.
Well, see, that's like me when I saw Batman v Superman. I was basically Rich Evans in the back of the theater. I was heaving with laughter during that movie because of how bad it was. I was shocked at how bad it was.
I really did like Deadpool 2 and Infinity War. Neither of those really scream see it again to me.
Deadpool I did 2 actually watch Infinity. For me. I felt Deadpool 1 was a better movie, even though Deadpool 2 has more spectacle.
I actually do disagree with that, but I think that a lot of the charm from Deadpool 1 might like wear off by the second one because it's just kind of interesting to see that for the first time. Mm-hmm. I think Deadpool 2 just was funnier though to me. Like I just
there are jokes that land better than the first movie, that's for sure.
I love the X-Force. That was great. I love the ending and how long they fucking drag it out, but it's kind of done as a joke. I think the post credits is my favorite of any of the Marvel films.
Yeah.
Although I honestly I do think the Homecoming one is hilarious.
Oh yeah.
It's just a big middle finger to everyone, and since I'm not a big Marvel fan, that was hilarious to me.
My biggest middle finger that I loved for Marvel was the end of Infinity War when the credits rolled up after Thanos won and everyone was like, I was like, hell yeah, because I haven't felt that since Empire Strikes Back, and I love that feeling. I love the feeling of the villains winning, and
they won and you're fucked.
And they make you wait. Well, of course, they only make you wait a year to resolve that. But when Star Wars came out, they had to wait a couple years for Jedi to come out. I want to know what was going through the audience's head when that movie first came out, because I only saw it in the 90s when it was re-released. I had already seen it on video many times before that. That was my favorite movie of all time until I saw Blade Runner. I think Empire is one of the few Star Wars films that actually is so good. It's too good to the point where you could watch Empire by itself without the context of the first film or the last, and it would still be just a good adventure film without any of the other pieces of the franchise. I think it's the rare few. I think it's and that's partly because Irvin Kershner is a better director than George, but of course I happen to think about this too. Irvin Kershner was the same guy that directed RoboCop, which I arguably will say, or he directed RoboCop 2, which I almost say is better than RoboCop 1 in some ways too. I'm very much with Mike on Red Letter Media about that, where like I love RoboCop 1. I think it's flawless in its execution. But RoboCop 2 is probably almost better upon rewatching it, which is interesting. And it's directed by a 67-year-old man. What is it about 60-some-year-old like directors like Mad Max Fury Road over the last couple years? Massive. I was surprised that was a hit because I thought it would be, a hit amongst Mad Max fans like myself. But I figured no way is it going to get praise like that. But Academy Awards. You know what I mean? Like big level stuff. I was shocked, and I was happy it was getting the recognition it deserved. I think that film is phenomenal. I think it's one of the few movies over the last 20 years that's actually flawless.
I have to say this too, and I've seen a lot of the Mad Max movies, not Fury Road yet.
Oh man.
I know, like I'm sure I'd be gushing over it too. I haven't seen it yet.
So what's your rating like between the three Mad Max films you have seen, the trilogy? Where do you put them? Like, do you prefer Fury, or do you prefer Road Warrior over like 1 and 3, like most people, or are you kind of different?
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. I think I watched all of them with family, and I do remember the one I enjoyed the most was Road Warrior.
Yeah.
But I remember enjoying all of them, though. It wasn't like there was one I hated or anything. I just kind of sat down and enjoyed the ride, you know?
Yeah, they're kind of vastly different.
Yeah.
Where, like, I always compare Road Warrior or the Mad Max films to, like, The Matrix, where Matrix 1, 2, and 3, which I hate that people give the trilogy crap because I think it's actually one of the best trilogies ever made. I love the Matrix trilogy a lot for what it is. I've always made the comparison that the first movie, it has the tone, it sets up the tone or whatever, and the world. And Mad Max 1 does that, but it's post-apocalyptic. Like, it's before the deserty stuff and people dressing up in leather chaps. You get in the second film, and they're starting to do that, but the world's not completely all desert. Then you get to the third film, and it's just a wasteland, right? So each chapter is drastically, several years in with Max. And that's the whole point. It's like the gun-toting warrior going in, and he's a character in the first movie. He's more of a character in his first film. And the next sequels, he's not so much of a character. He's a character to go through the plot line and meet other better side characters. Kind of like the man with no name, Clint Eastwood type of stuff. And that's why that character works, which is why you're going to love Fury Road.
Yeah.
Because Fury Road introduces one of the best characters of all time.
I think I just need to sit down and watch, marathon them all, because honestly, I think I might appreciate it more if I actually just sit down and watch everything again from scratch. It's been a while since I've seen the old ones.
Right. Well, I guess technically Fury Road's supposed to have, timeline-wise, between 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. So there's that too. I know some people don't really tend to care because that character's timeless. You can keep recasting that character, sticking him in a desert and doing a different story, and it just works. So that's what I think that's a better approach, doing the James Bond approach of recasting, which is what I think they should do with Iron Man. I think most characters like that, Indiana Jones, Iron Man, just recast them.
Yeah. It'd be a little weird if you were doing it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but if you wanted to do new Iron Man movies, I wouldn't be against it.
Right, slowly easing the audience into the idea of a new cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd have to do that because it's the Marvel films are more of a serial style. They've perfected the cinematic serial, so I think you would have to.
The Marvel comics have done so much stuff with alternative realities and universes where things happen differently, and I really do think the movies could dive into that as they keep going on. The comic universes, they've gotten really crazy. They could do it with the movies.
The Marvel cinematic or the Marvel comics don't do it as much as DC, though. That's my only problem is DC, because they have the 52 and the 52 universes and the new 52. They go so crazy with it. And I think that was the biggest mistake Zack could have ever done, was start with a dark Superman in the storyline of the idea of injustice mixed with the Dark Knight Returns and try to do later Elseworld stuff right off the bat. That's why that didn't work. It's if you gave us characters to care about before this, that could have worked in a different direction with a smarter script. You can give me evil Superman, but I don't care about evil Superman. He was a douche in the first movie, so to me, he wasn't any more evil than he was, in Man of Steel. So my thing is, I would have been more connected and upset and saddened over the fact that Superman had lost his way and that or maybe even possibly had to kill him just to save the universe because he lost his way. That would have been far more impactful, but instead they just waste it with him and Doomsday and just kill him off.
Honestly, at this point, it just feels like with the DC movies, I understand that Wonder Woman and Aquaman were popular, but it almost just feels so nice to imagine that, just imagine the idea of Shazam being the new first movie.
Yeah.
A new fresh, clean slate. Shazam would be a very strange main character to have, but honestly, I know in the comics, Iron Man, Tony Stark is a major part of it, but that was not a popular character in Marvel films at the time. You mainly had your Spider-Man and everything.
Not even in comics. In comics, he's a B character.
I don't think, I really don't think if people had to imagine a Marvel Cinematic Universe, I don't think, without knowing anything, go back 20 years and they had to hear about this idea, I don't think any of them would imagine that Tony Stark is the main character of this, which I would consider him. Obviously, right. He kind of shares the spotlight with Steve Rogers.
Exactly.
But if I had to pick one character that comes to mind when I think of main character of the MCU, I'd say Tony Stark.
Well, that's all ruined now because they've made Captain Marvel
so
powerful and unique that they've ruined the significance of Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, which pisses me off. And it's not the only thing that pisses me off. It's the fact that the few fans that defend that movie say, well, we need our Superman, Marvel Superman is Carol Danvers. And I'm we had that. It was Steve Rogers. That was, everyone keeps saying that's our Superman. He's the most heroic. Our Superman's not even Superman anymore. And Steve Rogers is more Superman than Superman is. And it's that's the character. That's why that works. And Tony Stark's that Batman. And you can't.
Yeah, the rich
that's
guy
why
with
they
his
work.
Gadgets.
Yeah, that's why they work tonally against each other and well together in certain cases. That's why it works. It's funny. They're doing a better job of like pre-Justice League setup of Batman v Superman with their characters than Batman and Superman are, which is it's funny. I always made the joke, wouldn't it be great if they just sold all the rights, the like DC rights, that Warner Brothers just like, here, you have it, and Disney Marvel takes it and they're like, sure, we got this, and they make like 12 successful movies. It'd be great.
It's because Marvel put so much planning into everything, and DC was like, what's Marvel doing?
Well, we knew it was some point in time they would have to slip up, and I hesitate to say that Black Panther is their first slip up, because it kind of is for me, and I guess in some cases Ant-Man and the Wasp is, but for me, a massive slip up for me is Captain Marvel. I think it's like what you said, we talked about before. After Phase 3 is over, I think I'm done. You know?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. The thing with me is I'm not the best one to comment on that, just because I've skipped so many of them.
Right.
I watched Iron Man and liked it. I saw Iron Man 2 in theaters, and I didn't really give it much of a chance to be. I know a lot of people really like it. I thought it was boring. I didn't like it.
I think most people unanimously hate that film.
Yeah,
right?
but
I think most of them.
I just hear so many people defend it nowadays. Like, it seems like it's kind of gained a following.
The underdog.
Yeah.
See, I think there's other films to defend. I feel like there's so many movies. Like, I feel like Disney's done the one, like, before they had Marvel. I feel like they had so many like underdog movies that they put a lot of money into that for some reason didn't find its audience, that I feel like it will become cult films that are actually, that I somehow resonated with right off the bat. Like Tron Legacy or The Lone Ranger, like those films, or John Carter from Mars. I think those films are really, really good, and sadly kind of flopped, but they had huge budgets. It's like, why did Disney spend so much money on the first film of a franchise they didn't know necessarily what would happen? And except for the case of Tron, I think they pretty much knew that would have some kind of success and fandom because of the previous film, but and video games and stuff. But I think that movie gets sorely underlooked.
I mean, I guess it's just you can't really predict the future. I think one of my favorite stories from Disney predicting something and it just fallen flat on their face. Now, there was a good thing that came out of this too, so it wasn't complete lost cause. But I remember watching the documentaries, like when they made the fucking Lion King, how nobody wanted to be part of that project because everyone was saying Pocahontas is going to be the big one.
Right.
And now Lion King is like one of the most beloved animated films of all time. Probably one of the most beloved films ever made. And Pocahontas has probably a small fan base.
Pocahontas has a small fan base mainly for its music. And
yeah, I like the music.
Enough, like, that movie had massive controversy when it came out when I was a kid. So it's kind of funny that, like, that probably didn't help it. But I think, Lion King's very different. Like, remember when they re-released Lion King in 3D temporarily for, like, in theaters like 5 years back?
Yeah, I wish they would just do something like that again instead of the live-action remake.
And they did that, and it got, like, number 1 or number 2 at the box office. Like, it was beating actual movies.
Yeah.
Movies. and Disney was like, yep, we still got it. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, and that's the thing. I think there's only 2 things that Disney that can do that I'm thinking of. And it's, 1 is The Lion King, and 2 is probably Toy Story. If they re-released it, it would crush everything at the box office, even the new stuff. And that's why I think they shouldn't be remaking it.
Yeah, and like
just re-release it.
I had a friend who was saying, like, one reason he was open to it was like it's gonna be kind of like a new generation of people can enjoy the story. And I'm like, just re-release the movie. People can take their kids to see it. They should do that. I would love. I didn't get to see it.
It doesn't really age. CGI does.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's that movie is like gonna look awful one day.
Yeah. I mean, it's photorealistic now.
Yeah.
And just the same as the Planet of the Apes movies are. But I think at some point in time, we're going to look at that, maybe even just in 4 or 5 years, and be like, this doesn't work. I don't like the fact that they're putting all their eggs in one basket based off the fact of nostalgia for a classic animated film. I'd rather they just do like I don't know, big budget sequels to those classic ones or do new original stuff.
And look, the one thing I want to say about it is like the effort shows. The people who are making this movie are clearly very talented to be able to make something look that real and look that good. It's just, it's really weird. It really reminds me of some of those weird, like, straight to VHS movies where like their animals have like a voiceover. And they're really cheap, and like that's what it's reminding me of so much, because these animals cannot express at all.
We're going back to the 90s when things like Homeward Bound was a thing. Except now it's all. Can you imagine they do a remake of Homeward Bound, and that was Disney too?
Yeah, you
CGI dogs.
You ever? I got these 2 VHSs as a kid. Both of them were Talking Duck puppy movies. Tell me if you've heard of either of them. One of them has a better excuse, I think, than the other. One of them is just a simple dog goes on an adventure. The other one, I'm sure it's not good. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I actually remember there being like an idea there that I thought was interesting. One of them was called Napoleon. You ever hear of Napoleon?
Yes. Oh my God, I was just thinking about that awful movie.
Yeah, I loved it as a kid. But the one where he goes in the hot air balloon and gets taken off. Not even a hot air balloon, just a basket with some balloons attached to it.
The cover's the worst thing ever, too, guys. If you thought Air Bud movie covers were awful, just look. The cover of Napoleon is literally him with a happy face over the edge, floating in the basket of a hot air balloon, and it is a bunch of balloons. Sorry, and it's so stupid. It's so poorly made.
I remember the extremely irritating kangaroo song that plays at the end. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Maybe in post I'll just play that song ever so lightly during this section.
Our outro is the kangaroo song.
Yeah, just while as we're talking right now, maybe, or maybe that'll be too distracting because it's like a voice, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Wonderful earbuds ready, guys.
Yeah. The other one was oh god, fucking Napoleon. I might actually, me and Zach might do a Mackle and Zatch on that one day. Let me know if you want to join.
I would love to talk about bad movies with you guys.
You know what the Mackle and Zatch series is, though? It's like where we actually watch it, record ourselves watching it, and then I cut in like the best parts.
I love that.
So if you wanna be on one, join us for Napoleon.
Yeah, my buddy Richard Core Kenobi, him and I are gonna do an entire 2.5 hour sit down of The Last Jedi.
Nice.
And it is going to kill me. But I said this time I was going to drink during it. So if you guys want to be entertained, that's happening sometime next month.
You're going to live stream it?
I don't recommend it. We will either live stream it or we thought about doing like releasing kind of like almost like director's commentary version, an audio format of the whole thing, and then doing a highlight video, kind of like what you do with the Mackle and Zatch videos. I'll
definitely watch it if you do like the highlight video, but if you do a live stream, I'll try to be on your chat the night you do it. That'd be fun. Obviously you can't show
all the movies I hate.
Obviously you can't like live stream the movie. Yeah, because that'd get you banned. But
right, exactly. Oh, I see people do it on Twitch sometimes, and it's hilarious. Like they'll do entire episodes of like Rugrats, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. It's just you want to be careful because you don't want you to get your account banned. Because people do it, but it's not. I don't think it's worth the risk.
Oh no, hell no, it's not.
Especially doing something as big as a Disney movie. But
we could probably get away with it doing Napoleon.
Yeah, probably.
Because no one cares.
You know what's so fucking weird about that? There's the Australian release and the American release. Both of them are done in English, but for some reason the American release, they felt the need to redub it.
See, this is the same thing they did with the first Mad Max movie. Mad Max 1 is completely redubbed. There's an American cut and an Aussie cut. And they thought that American audiences, which they were aiming for an early release for, would not understand the Aussie slang, so they redubbed it. And it's horrible. Do not watch the theatrical dubbed cut of Mad Max 1. Nobody, please do not. And even the director to this day hates the fact that he had to do that, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
So that's great.
So
Napoleon
stupid.
And Mad Max have something in common.
All right. The other dog movie. Have you ever heard of Fluke?
Oh God, yeah.
Now that one...
Wasn't that a better one, though?
Yeah, I would consider it better just because there's actually an idea behind it. Now, I loved this movie when I was a kid, but it probably, like, it is a talking dog movie. It probably wasn't very good. But the whole thing of it is it opens with a guy dying in a car crash, and then he basically reincarnates as a puppy.
God, I know what you're talking about.
And his family, his wife and child adopt the puppy.
Yeah.
So honestly, saying that out loud, that sounds kind of like unintentionally hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But I will give it that they at least tried something instead of just like puppy goes on adventure. We film this puppy interacting with these animals, and God, yeah, check if Napoleon was like another Milo and Otis, if you know what that one is.
Oh God, yeah. Because that movie made me cry as a child.
Yeah, I mean they fucking went through like 30 cats apparently.
Is that... Here's the thing, though. Like, I can't think... If somebody asked me, hey, what's your favorite talking animal movie? I don't know what I could say. Like, I'd be like, first I'd ask, do you mean real animals or can CG be included? Because I'll pick Stuart Little, and they'll be like, no.
Yeah. I like Stuart Little.
I think it's a charming movie. But like...
I like the second... I think when I was a kid, I liked the second one more.
Well, now that I think about it, too... the person who voiced Stuart Little, a.k.a. Michael J. Fox, also was in probably, I think, one of the better talking animal movies, which is the first Homeward Bound. He's the boxer in that.
Yeah, I do remember those. It's been a long time. There was this fucking... I hated Beethoven.
Oh, the first one?
So many. I probably never saw the first one. There was like 80 of them.
The first one's great, but it's so 90s cheese. It's not like a great movie, but it actually surprisingly gets dark at the end and talks about the idea of animals being vicious towards their owners, but it's actually the villain trying to make him look worse than he actually is so he can get control of it, because there's like this weird effed up like agency or something he works for where he's trying to do experiments on big dogs with like this serum. So he's posing as the family vet to get closer to their dog so he can kidnap the dog and use him, and then they're going to kill him afterwards is the plan. And it's really effed up. And the guy who plays the evil veterinarian is the guy who was in the Herbie movies, who was Herbie's best friend, like his owner. It's that sweet guy from Disney. So you see him as this awful bastard of a man through the entire movie, and it's so good. Like, it's funny to think that movie would actually be... It has cheesy 90s moments, like, oh, dog does stupid silly things to annoy the dad, you know what I mean? But by the end of it, it changes all completely around. It's more like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah. Those movies, the one with the talking animals, like, where it's just they either decide not to make the mouths move at all, or they just do the horrible mouth movement that I think the Buddies movie did. Like, it was the Air Buddies. They did that. All of those, like, it's just, there's like almost zero potential for them to be good, because you have like the really bad ones like Love on a Leash or A Talking Cat that are like have a so bad it's good status.
Yeah.
If that's your thing, honestly, A Talking Cat, I couldn't even find it. I didn't even find it enjoyable on an ironic level. I like the JonTron review of it. But that's about, like, aside from that, there's no fun to be had with that one, I don't think.
Kevin Spacey is a cat.
Oh yeah, and that's 9 Lives.
It's an awful movie, and I had to sit through it twice. Thanks, little cousins.
I just think that, like, the thing that's so sad though about like something like Love on a Leash and A Talking Cat is I don't think they're that much worse than when the big studios do it.
Right.
They're like clearly okay. So like the big, like when Disney does it, they at least like have a decent camera and hired.
I like the positive thing that you could say is they have a decent camera.
Yeah, and they probably have someone in the industry who's edited stuff that it's like at the very least, like, I guess I don't even know if I want to say competent, just like it looks like any other Disney Channel movie, basically.
Well, they try to shoot those films like dramas too. That's partly why they totally changed. Like if it was on Disney Channel, or like if it was like, you know, like those silly B movies like The Talking Cat you're talking about, they shoot it like a made for TV, or they shoot it purposely with the mindset of it being a child. I feel like Homeward Bound didn't exactly. It was more shot like a drama to bring out the child in the older dog owner.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
I'm trying to think of other talking animal movies, like one that did it the way I hate it. Like, if I had to like say like best talking animal movie just in general, like if you're allowed to do CGI or animation, then God, I could think of a ton.
Well, I think the best ever animation or live action period is Babe, the first Babe movie. I was rewatching that the other day, and I was like, man, this movie's still fucking stellar. It's so good. And because they used like puppets and stuff, like Jim Henson puppetry in it, mixed with like the moving mouths and stuff. So you have puppet dogs, puppet pigs, puppet ducks, and stuff like that, mixed really well with the actual animals and the live action bits. It's really well handled, and now I know why that movie was like nominated for so many Academy Awards. It's a really charming movie.
I'll have to rewatch that maybe.
The second one is considered the better movie, but I don't know why, because I remember when I saw it in theaters as a kid, I hated it because I thought it did everything wrong that the first movie got right.
I feel like I'd have to watch it with like, I don't know, I'd like want to watch it with like a younger sibling or something, or like a younger family member. But I mean, I remember watching the Babe movies as a kid. I don't remember anything about them.
It's oddly a very adult movie. Like the idea of like treatment on farms and like family and how to belong. It has this very like timeless fairy tale approach, and it's told in chapters of books. And so it kind of is like Animal Farm, like that dark. It has dark tones of stuff like that, like placement in the world and how certain species don't get with this species because, or even communicate with each other because of this prejudice and stuff like that. Really adult themes that's kind of like in stuff like Land Before Time and animated features like that kind of scarred us as a kid.
Yeah. One that like messes with me almost like more so now than it did back then, just thinking about it. It's like definitely not the live action version, because there was a live action version. I saw it. I don't remember anything about it, but Charlotte's Web. Because that movie, a fucking big theme in that movie is death. Both in the beginning and the end of the movie. And like, as a kid, I could handle that sort of thing. Like I wasn't really afraid of dying as a kid, because it wasn't something that I like even thought was, I'm just a small child. I'm like, that's not going to happen to me for 100 years, so I don't have to worry about it. But like, then as I get older and I look back at that movie, I'm like, God damn.
Well, in that movie, the animated one, the classic, it hammers more on the idea of death and how there's a positive outlook on it, that even in death, creating new life will continue the legacy. Like with the spider and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I get it's definitely a positive message. I'm aware of that. It's just, God, him fucking begging for his life in several scenes in the movie. It's just so fucking, it's too fucking harsh. It's like, I think again, as a kid, I just kind of realized that, okay, they're not going to fucking kill him. That's why it didn't bother me. Like that'd be really fucking weird if they killed Wilbur off in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
I mean, hey, I wouldn't expect that. That's like the Tarantino approach of getting rid of the main character out of the bat. I kind of want to see Tarantino doing a dark Charlotte's Web now.
There's a very good video on YouTube. It's animated, called Little Quentin. You ever hear of that?
Yes.
Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. I love that. Because it's kind of how I picture like what kind of mixing a children's movie with Quentin Tarantino style.
Right.
It's just Quentin Tarantino when he was a kid playing with his sister's toys. I love that.
Well, and that's the thing too, is Tarantino's like a big like rom-com person. He loves rom-coms.
Yeah.
And, like one of his favorite rom-coms happens to be one of my favorite, which is My Best Friend's Wedding. And I would love to see him take on a rom-com, like an R-rated rom-com. I think that'd be quite interesting.
I think he said he's going to finish after like a 10 or 11, so he'd have to get to that. But
after this film is supposedly his last. Unless, of course, he gets offered Star Trek. But my assumption is that his last movie before retirement, if he really retires, will be a science fiction drama. And I would love to, because he always keeps going back to that. And I'm like, yes, do like a crew lost in space type of like a messed up drama comedy in space. I would love to see what he could do with that. Like just characters locked in a ship together, with all of his rich dialogue. There's got to be something there. So yeah, I mean, like, I've always been curious about, like, what if Tarantino did Alien? You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. That could be very interesting. I'd love to see it, honestly. It took me so fucking long to finally see it. I saw Pulp Fiction not long ago for the first time. Because it was one of Zachary's recommendations on Duckcast. And I've seen a bunch of Tarantino's movies beforehand, and I've even seen a lot of the movies that he's written beforehand. Like I saw From Dusk Till Dawn. He play a role in Desperado, right, in that one?
Yeah,
I know
he played a
in it
cameo
too.
in there, yeah. And I think he might have assisted Robert with the writing of that scene, but I think he's more known for things like he did True Romance. He wrote True Romance, which got him into Hollywood, and then he did some other. I think he did. Oh crap! What's the one? The Woody Harrelson and one about the murdering couple. Oh, I just blanked on their name now. But yeah, that film and definitely True Romance, which I think is his best written work. But yeah, that was the two that put him on the map.
Yeah, and I think that he'll still. I think he said he might still write movies when he's.
I think he's great at it. I think he's like, for somebody who dropped out of high school, stellar writer. Like,
yeah,
he nails it. He knows exactly, and not only that. I mean, yeah, you can learn the techniques of filmmaking by watching film. No problem. Anyone can do that. Cool. That's awesome. But the fact that he taught himself to write completely without really taking classes for it, that's a whole nother level to nail that with the filmmaking technique.
I would agree that having like basic English classes is important, but honestly, like I feel like the best experience you can get as a writer is just read and write every single day, and you just get better at it. Exactly. I feel like I've become half decent at writing now. I think I could write something okay because I do read and write a bunch.
You can always tell what a writer is, and you can always see improvement in their work within a very short amount of time, and then in itself proves that they always write. They at least always write something to improve. Yeah. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, this has been the longest episode of DeRailed Podcast so far. I knew it was going to be having you on, and I mean that as a compliment. I knew that me and you'd be able to pump out a bunch of stuff to talk about, and we never even made it to like what one of my topics was going to be, but we can save that for a future episode.
Okay,
yeah,
surprise
for sure.
maybe by that time you'll see some of the other movies we can rant about, so I can talk about my hype for Alita Battle Angel, which is fantastic.
Let's write down a few. Okay, so by next episode, I will see Alita Battle Angel. I'll see Ready Player One, Blade Runner 2049. We're just planning out the next episode.
Which you're almost finished for. And Mad Max Fury Road. You can't forget.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask if you wanted to do Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I'll watch it with you the night you watch it if you want. I've got all those on digital. Yeah. I've got that and Ready Player One. And
yeah, sure, man. And Napoleon. We're all...
Oh, God. Watch me. I'm going to record a video and put it on Twitter of me digging through my VHS copies of shit. And there's just like at the bottom of the barrel, I found Napoleon.
I have the VHS too still. I know it's somewhere here.
The VHS is just going to disintegrate in the palm of my hands when I open it because it's so old.
Nice. Yeah, no.
Dodge that bullet.
I'm currently editing the next Mackel and Zach video. It's on an indie film. It's on YouTube. Nice. But after that, we could do Napoleon. I want to do more stuff. We keep doing fucking stupid Mario Bros. I want to do more.
I would love to do that. I'm gonna let you know now. If you want to hear the ultimate cynic in me, I mean, people know I'm pretty much a cynic now, but I mean, you're gonna hear with me and schmaltzy like kid movies. Oh, you want to hear some groaning? You get ready, guys. Like, I'm gonna be so unhappy, and the only thing that's gonna get me through it are these guys, like these guys, and my alcohol, and that's it.
Yeah, bring alcohol. Zachary doesn't drink at all, but I drink. I don't think there's been a Mackel and Zach where I haven't drinking.
Yeah, I'll definitely go to a Walmart and grab as much hard liquor as I can.
All right. Well, Tim, is there anything you want to plug before we end this? I know you have like some new stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I am going to continue. I know people have been worried. Yes, I am going to continue the Joker stuff and the Joker's punchline. Right now, I'm currently doing voiceover work for 3 people, so I'm kind of in the middle of that of other jobs. But I will be continuing something. The next one probably won't be a Joker's punchline, but it'll be a Joker something. I am working on a month for something for the 8-Bit Misfit, but I am not going to release what those are until all of those videos are done, so I can get them out like every other day, because I'm planning a specific themed month for the return of the 8-Bit Misfit content that's vastly different than what I've done before. So that's coming. I am live streaming more often, but I've just recently got Facebook, so I'll probably go and do, when I go see a new movie, I'll probably live stream on Facebook and Twitch and talk about the new movie really quickly, rather than constantly putting 8-bit tidbit reviews up for each new movie that comes out, because there's far too many. So yeah, majority of the stuff I do is on the 8-Bit Misfit YouTube channel. So if you go to the youtube.com/the 8-Bit Misfit, you'll find me there, guys. And of course you can follow me on Twitter,
and I'll have all that stuff. I'll have all that stuff linked.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I've got going on. There's more. Stay tuned. And I can say this, I am doing a collaboration with a dear friend of mine who is a voice actor. I can't exactly say who it is and what the project is, but I can just say that it themes something to do with Batman and Joker. And I'm very, very happy to be collaborating with this person who is an excellent Batman.
Follow him on Twitter, and you'll get more updates on that then, I suppose. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. This has been a great one.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, man. I've been able to blast. It will. We'll keep this thing going anytime.
Oh,
man.
yeah,
Anytime
for sure, man. I definitely want to keep getting you and Matt back on. Maybe at one point it could be all 3 of us. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be interesting. And also, I just want to say I love how Blade Runner. We went into this episode of Blade Runner, and one of the final topics was Napoleon. That's what I love about DeRailed podcast.
Oh my God! Did I really put Napoleon in with that movie? Oh, I've done it.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
Did I really put that movie in with my favorite film of all time?
Oh, I did it. I forced Napoleon into this.
Wow. Yeah, I got me thinking about it. It's like for some reason in my head I thought they were 2 very different conversations on 2 different podcast episodes, but no, we really did put those in the same. Oh God.
Fun stuff. I always include 2 things in the thumbnail. The Blade Runner was definitely the main topic, but I think Napoleon's going to get the side corner.
You need to put a picture of either Napoleon in that Mad Max uniform, like we mentioned, or put Napoleon as a Mad Max on his head with like a patch and like a horrible mohawk, like a future punk mohawk, but put it over Deckard's body so it's him pointing a gun.
I'll probably leave Deckard alone, but Mad Maxify the Napoleon poster.
Napoleon Blade Runner. Oh God.
Thanks for listening.
Later, guys.